My speech is going to centre around one important fact about myself. I once left a city and saw how communities and states' provision of all services have been gutted by successive governments prioritising only the rich's right to buy houses, only the rich's right to aspire, and the rich's right to buy as many houses as they damn well please. But first I'm going to deal with nonsense sauce, which is what we got from these guys. Obviously they may never have met Shengwu, and let me tell you, it was terrifying to hear somebody call him Prime Minister. This wasn't some soft core prop where we added a little bit of social housing to an otherwise normal system with the same speculative booms. It didn't affect the demand side of housing at all. This was Shengwu with his balls on the table telling you he was changing everything and capitalism was, crazy. So how does it change things? Right. Firstly, these guys get up and say, we don't give people jobs, right? But we give people the tools to get jobs. What I say is there are huge sections of society completely priced out of markets, so no matter how they work hard as they can never accumulate the wealth necessary to buy a house in their community. I'll be coming back to this later. These guys raising the POI, these people will be locked to debt or forever in this perpetual cycle of craziness. But no, the point about mortgages is you pay them back over time. And over time, you accrue an asset, and the debt lowers down. This is very important in a state where you stabilise house prices, what these guys have done. This is important even if you're not paying it back, as by just simple inflation. The amount of capital in the market doubles every about 15 years. There's more pounds relative to the value of the housing stock. Yep, so even as long as you hold an asset for long enough in its housing position, different from any other asset like a car or whatever, it does increase in value. Therefore, if you're going to give people an asset, give them a house, because one day it will be worth more than it was when they bought it. No, thank you. Then these guys got this idea, right, and it's just going to increase wild speculation. The market's going to change, and the market's going to be crazy. I've got 2 points for this. First is that the wild speculation has been largely driven by the buy-to-let market. What these guys are saying is twofold. One, we will guarantee everybody a house and the state will provide it for them. Do you suspect this will affect demand for housing at all? Do you think the businesses will think, now that the state's given everyone a house, now's the time to plough money into houses and raise the price, ladies and gentlemen? No. The second point on this is the idea of why these cycles get going. It takes a long time to build a house. It takes a short time for the market to change. Therefore, when the house price is rising currently, builders build like crazy. When the house price is falling, they give up, which means that houses come on stream during the boom forever, and houses don't come on stream during the bust forever, and houses don't come on stream during the boom. When the state takes control, when the state can take a long-term view and build houses as needed by people, not as needed by markets, we get a stabilisation of the house price, not the chaos they're talking about.
Isn't the whole point that the poorest people in society won't have the resources to hang on to their house for long enough for it to come back and its value to rise again?
Right. Given that the state is unlikely to be the crazy subprime mortgage lender who said 0% interest for the first week, 17% after, and then pull people into it, I think if people can afford their mortgage on the first day of their house, or the first day when they move into their house, and the state isn't a loan shark, they'll be able to afford it on the 10th year and the 30th year afterwards. Poor people, if they can afford the first payment, will be able to afford any others. This last idea is these guys think they'll drive up prices again. They think there is no elasticity in the house market. They think that builders you cannot train new builders to buy new bricks if you're not buying more space. Has Australia run out of space? No. If we put more money in the market, that will incentivise more houses to build, and the state's building it anyway. So I don't think that's right. But what's my extension, you're still in judges, going to be, ladies and gentlemen? It's going to be on those communities that do not exist in the city. It's going to be on those communities that have been wiped out. But first, it's going to be on one type of community that's in the city. I think one of the duties of the government has to be to protect communities. One of the things that buy-to-let markets has done within cities and within suburbs is to create entire communities that are solely founded upon one demographic of people. Young urbanites who are in there for a few years just to try and just to rent for a while and then move on. This is very damaging in two ways. One, because it's part of a positive feedback loop. Currently in a buy-to-let person, once you own a couple of houses, it is much easier to buy your third and your fourth. It's much easier for somebody who owns 2 or 3 properties to buy more than it is for one person to buy theirs, because they have the collateral in the buildings that they already own. Why is this important? You get people like the Duke of Westminster who exploit this positive feedback loop to own entire communities and just rent them out. Why is this bad? Because the state's ability to provide services to individuals within that community relies upon there being enough of that demographic in order to do so. You do not close the school in a community down when the last child leaves. You close the school in a community down when the buy-to-let market brings a significant fraction of yuppies into that town. It's too many of them, and there aren't enough children to support a school. Why is this important? We think that primary goods, like your right to education, I'll take you on this in a second, sir, are influenced by the balancing of your community. And for the state to be able to provide services to all people in this community, it has to have balanced communities. And this is more likely to be the case if people own them and people there in the long term, so they might have kids. Sir.
So either you promote building in the far-off rural districts or you push up the prices for everyone. How does your policy actually encourage any of this social mixing you're talking about?
Prices for everybody because the state gives houses to everyone. You don't, and you can get new houses because the state builds houses for everyone. Shengwu's boss at this, guys. You know, give me credit. So there exists views of modern living that are not urban. Outside the metropolis of London generates great wealth. For example, London. Unfortunately, the metropolis is rubbish to live in, like London. So people who have lots and lots of money aspire to owning a second home in communities such as the southwest of England. What they do is they buy out these communities, they buy out the houses in these communities, raise prices, and then the local people cannot afford them. What this leads to is that the people sitting in these houses for 3 weeks of the year, that is not enough time to support all the provisions that the state provides. It's not enough time to support a pub, it's not enough time to support a train station, buses, GP's surgery, post office. Once all of those things have closed down, what options do local people have? Well, they can live in a caravan at the edge of town because they can't afford a house. They don't have anything in their community to support them. Or they can try and live as an urban citizen. They can quit their community that their families resided in for generations and leave for the city. But they have no urban social network, but they have no job, and where at the end of the day, they will end up living on a street. It is wrong for these guys to assert that everybody is like everyone in this room. Everybody has future earning potential on which to borrow. Everybody wants to live in a city and be a transitory person. Everybody wants to leave the village that's housed their community for generations. The status quo destroys the ability of the state to provide for those people. By guaranteeing them housing anywhere they want, we protect those communities everywhere. We stand proudly in proposition.